should the military get involved in cities where there has been rioting and looting? I know many of you have been angry about what's been going on in the cities across America. And so it becomes a question, if local law enforcement isn't going to do the job, should some sort of a federal force step in? And we asked you that question in a poll just below here. We asked, in the current circumstances across several major American cities, do you feel active military presence is necessary, or would it set up an undesired precedent? Yes or no? Now, some of you had pointed out, rightly actually, that there are in fact two questions in that poll. So a simple yes or no may not quite suffice. So feel free to add to. By the way, I'd love to know what you think about this as I'm going through. Go ahead and put your comments here. Let me know what you think about everything that's been going on with the protests, with the violence that has erupted in the streets, everything surrounding it. Maybe even President Trump's reaction and this idea of should we bring in the big guns, I guess, so to speak. Now. So far in that poll, I'd encourage you to go ahead and vote. As 93% say yes, and I'm going to go through a couple of the comments there, and I want to set the stage as well, because this is not just our little group here. There was a poll from Morning Consult who said. They asked, is calling the U.S. military to support city police forces? They asked the poll, 58% of Americans oppose. Now, so far, the number of informed Americans like you is, again, I said that 93%. Now, there is a little bit of a dispute about because the president was saying, bring in the military, that kind of a thing, and there are limitations to that. Of course, we have the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, which essentially bars the U.S. military from getting involved in law enforcement action, which is, I think, most of us would agree is a good thing. We don't want, because we see what has happened in other countries, right? When the military goes through the streets, clears out protesters, it can get really ugly. Now, there are things. Well, there is a thing called the Insurrection Act of 1807, which I got here. It says which allows the president to send troops to respond to, quote, any insurrection, domestic violence, or unlawful combination or conspiracy that, quote, opposes or obstructs the execution of the laws of the United States or impedes the course of justice under those laws. So there's a little bit of wiggle room, but I don't think we're going to see, Marines in the streets or anything like that. But of course, we have the National Guard, and I believe 18,000 National Guard troops have been deployed in over 20 states across the country. So they are out there, they are doing it, and I want to, what do you guys think? Is that a good idea? I mean, is that what you need? And it seems to be the case. Many of you saying yes. We got a couple of comments here. Linda Myers Baker says yes. Susan Coleman, yes. Jim Weston, absolutely. Christy Everhart Thomas says no. And Jim asked, do you think the rioting should continue? And I mean, see, that's a little bit dicey, isn't it? Because what do you want? I mean, okay, so you want some sort of a federal presence, federal law enforcement presence on some level to support the local cops. Now, but the last thing we want, because it's gotten bad enough already, right? We're seeing rioting, we're seeing the looting, we're seeing the burning of buildings, churches. It's crazy. And so what do you do, right? And so I think you need to, in my opinion, I think you need to find a non-violent way of containing the situation. Because if shots ring out, if police or the National Guard or whomever just, end up shooting protesters, even if they're in a commission of a crime, even if they're looting, even if they're trying to, set fire to something, it's going to be awful. It will be an escalation, and it will not help the situation. So I think you need to find some sort of a nonviolent way out. But back to the poll, a couple of responses here that we asked. It says, got one from Robert Crockett. Wow. Solid fail. Yeah, you mentioned we did ask we did ask two questions in the poll, and I do apologize for that. But for one, yeah. If the local leaders won't send a National Guard, then yes. So that's in the case where, say, a city is, they're not going to call in the Guard, and then should the Fed step up? Now, one thing I did see, interestingly, is it wasn't military per se, but there was. So one of the we've heard a lot of things about, say, the militarization of police. Well, that's been kicked up as well. It's not just local police, but every agency, every federal agency essentially has their own mini military. There was I was seeing on Twitter, there was a video there, and someone, I think a journalist, went up to, there was a whole row of what appeared to, they looked like military, but in fact one of the guys answered, "I'm Department of Justice." So, I mean, I think even the USDA has SWAT teams and all this stuff. So that could be another sort of way around it. But Ken's saying, look, if the locals aren't going to do it, then send in the feds, basically. Would it be the other part of that question? Would it not be an undesired precedent? He says no, it won't be an undesired precedent. But I think people do have that worry. Randy Carter says to bring in the active military would be a mistake because you are turning them on the American people. Again, yeah, I mean, well, how comfortable are we with? God forbid it ever happens, the U.S. military turning their guns on American citizens. Instead, you should use the full force of the police, National Guard, and the FBI to stop the rioters and looters. The peaceful protests are no longer getting a good message across when they are using them for violence. Marvin Floyd says, necessary. Question does not give you a choice of one or the other. I do apologize about that. Now we got Craig Myers posted a picture saying "Death to Antifa," and Ralph Maddox says it's only going to set an undesired precedent to people who were looting. Yeah. Bill Drewley says, "I think it's high time for civilian militia to take to the streets to fight off protesters." Wow. So that would be, and James Howlett replies, "I would say only to protect property and people. If you go out to confront them head on, the media will make it look like you're the bad guys." Yeah. I will say that if you're in one of these areas, if you're in one of these cities where the stuff is going on, be very, very careful about what you do. If you go out there, look, I know you have a Second Amendment right. Go out there, bring your gun. If you do something, even it's going to be really dicey. The last thing you want to do is again, as James Howlett says, you'll end up on CNN or something, and you'll be a demon. So be very, very careful out there, guys. I would say that luckily in my area, I don't know if there's anything going on wherever you guys are. If there's protests, is there any kind of mass protest? Me, it's been pretty quiet. I've been spared that way. Of course, I'm not interested in going out. You see some of these videos. It looks like a war zone. I mean, I feel like, and I respect everyone's desire to go out and protest or whatever, make their voices heard. But to me, it's just a dangerous situation, and I don't want any part of it. We got another comment here from Jerry Anderson. Yes. Terrorists are attacking American communities. We will fight terrorism in other countries. Why not here at home? Number 2, only terrorist traitors would consider our military as undesirable, and the actions prove that their lives do not matter. So very, very contentious stuff here, guys. I would encourage you to head down to that poll and vote, and keep this conversation going. I hope everyone out there is safe, and I think we're all kind of on the same page here that we hope that this stuff ends quickly so we can sort of get back to, well, I don't know what normal is anymore, right? After this pandemic, after these mass protests, what are we left with at the end of the day, even when all this is over? What, as we sort of pick up the pieces, something to really think about. Well, thank you all for watching. Of course, I would encourage you to go to informedamerican.com to get real smart news in your inbox every day. Just head on over there and put your email, and you'll get all these great stories in your inbox first thing in the morning. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.